I know North London isn't the first place that springs to mind for a relaxing day out, but it can be. Below is Regent's Park and London Zoo, and 2 miles west of the park, a small lake. This is called Browning's Pool. The surrounding area is fondly known as Little Venice. On the north side of the pool, you're only 100 yards from Warwick Avenue tube station, and follow the direction of the canal here, and this will lead you to Camden Lock and London Zoo. On the other side of the pool, and just visible in the treetops, is the elevated section of the A40 Westway, and just below it is the Harrow Road Bridge. As the canal passes through here, it runs alongside Paddington Station. I'm not really a canal or boat enthusiast, but I must admit there's an irresistible fascination about them for people of all ages. Indeed, a children's TV series is based on this narrowboat as it travels the waterways and visits different types of location all over the country. They're currently on their way to film at London Zoo. And of course, this is a marvellous way to travel around London. Several companies offer short trips from Little Venice to Camden Lock, and it's well worth choosing one with a live commentary.
A narrow part of the canal ahead of us here. This is the Paddington stop. All the working boats came to a halt here to pay the toll for using the canal. A man used to come out of the office on the right, gauge the boats. That is, he would measure them to see how deep they were in the water, and from that he could work out the weight of their cargo, and the boatman had to pay a toll accordingly. So much per ton.
This part of the canal was named after the poet Robert Browning. In 1861, following the death of his wife, he returned to England and came to live here at 19 Warwick Crescent. His house once stood where these flats are today and would have looked similar to these on the opposite side of the pool. 15 years earlier, he secretly married Elizabeth Barrett of Wimpole Street, and to avoid a disapproving father-in-law, they lived in Italy. In the centre of the pool is Rat Island. Browning had a little summer house on the island, and on fine days would row across and sit and write poetry. He moved back to Italy in 1886 and lived in Venice for 3 years, where he died aged 77. He's buried in Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. Construction began on this part of the canal in 1818.
And completed it in 1820. And as we go onto the bridge, you'll see another little cottage on the left, which is the toll house marking the start of the Regent's Canal. And Mr. Andrews, the toll keeper, still lives there. He's lived there since 1927. He retired many years ago, but he stays there to keep an eye on things. Oh yeah. Here, fields, farms and little country lanes, and the canal made its way around the edge of London. The canal had grass banks, and all the boats were towed by horses who walked along the towpath on the left. Many of the fine houses which line the canal here were designed by the architect John Nash, the man who rebuilt Buckingham Palace and designed Regent Street and Regent's Park. But there was still some horse towing on this canal right up until 1960. Shortly after that, the last working boats came up from London docks. And for the last 30 years, it's been all pleasure boats, like those moored on either side here.
The white rails are a recent fixture, but on the lower edge of this wall, small grooves can be found at both ends of the tunnel, signs of a past era. These were made by the wet and heavy tow ropes as the horses pulled past.
The high big wall on the left of the canal here, behind the moored boats, has archways in it, which have been filled in now, but they used to lead through into a large underground stable with room for 400 horses. That will give you some idea of how busy the canal was. And so in those days there would have been boats here too, bringing in hay and straw for the stables, and supplies for the blacksmith shop. New horses. I once had a long chat with an old man who used to be on the manure run, although that wasn't what he called it. And he told me that boats carrying manure could often escape without paying the toll, as the tollkeeper just used to wave them through quickly and shut the window. And all of this, of course, was excavated before the days of earth-moving machinery. This was all dug out with pick and shovel by large gangs of Irish labourers, known as the navvies. The word navvy is a corruption of navigator, and men were said to navigate across the countryside, he said. And all the earth taken from this cutting by the navvies went up to Primrose Hill, an artificial hill near here. And the canal itself is about 6 feet deep at this point. It's lined with clay, and this one is known to all the boatmen as Blow Up Bridge. There was a terrible accident here in 1874 when a barge carrying 5 tons of gunpowder accidentally blew up right underneath the bridge. The accident happened at 3 o'clock one morning, waking everyone in London, and the explosion destroyed the bridge and the boat and did enormous damage to the surrounding area. 5 boatmen lost their lives here. And on the left-hand side, just before the bridge, you'll see a London plane tree which has a deep split running up its trunk. This tree was reduced to a stump by the explosion and grew back together again over the years. On the left, just before the bridge. And also on the left, if we look at the cast iron pillars, you'll see those tow rope marks I told you about earlier. And the first and last pillars here have tow rope marks on both sides. They were knocked down by the blast. When they stood them up again, they turned them round. You can imagine the shock of the residents of St John's Wood on the left as all their windows were shattered and brickwork and timber rained down on their roofs. Indeed, the keel of the boat, a long, heavy piece of timber, was thrown up into the air and went straight through the roof of a 4-storey house. An unusually sharp turn here, known to all the boatmen as Jew's Half Turn, but no one now knows why. The origin of the name has been lost. And you'll see how our captain steers around the right-hand edge. Good technique. It means that she can stop or pass if there's another boat coming the other way. And there is, but we're not stopping, because we're all getting there first. Right of way is decided by who gets into the bridge hole first, you see, and it's us on this occasion. Jessica is a careful steerer, but she does not hang back. No. This part of London is known as Primrose Hill. Pleasant residential area. No houses here when the canal was built though. This was all grazing land for the dairy farms in the area. And then we pass underneath Regent's Park Road and start to make our way along the back of St Mark's Crescent. Mind you, these gardens aren't to everyone's taste. Yesterday a man got up from his seat at the front, marched sternly down the back here and said, "It's a disgrace," he said. "These gardens should be tidied up." I was speechless. I'm like, should I have swum ashore with a pair of shears? Anyway, I like them. On the left are old warehouses, which now contain studios and workshops. Directly ahead of us is Hampstead Road Lock. This is the first of the 12 locks leading down to the Thames. And we're going to turn sharp left just before that and pull into Purfleet Wharf, which used to be a timber yard. But nowadays it's the scene of Camden Lock Market every weekend. Pull in, you must keep your hands marked right inside the boat just in case we bump you.